So this post is more than a year old, but the woman that sent it to me felt that this would be a good discussion question because not all the time will abuse simply be putting your hands on people. Sometimes it looks like this. This was posted in the marriage subreddit. It says, is throwing things violently around your partner abuse?" She says, "I've been married for 10 plus years, 4 kids aged 8 months to 8 years. My husband has anger and rage issues, and despite many episodes and subsequent promises to seek help over the years, never actually has in any meaningful way. I am pretty even keeled, but of course, struggling big time. He is so deeply unhappy all the time that it's hard to be around him, but I really do try everything to make his life easier. He has so much work stress, and I feel like I am always on eggshells. I'm wondering if you think throwing things around me and the kids is abusive." Today, he slammed a marble side table, threw his phone across the room, and then headbutted the door in a fit of rage. He swears like a madman when referring to people he is angry at. Will say things like "I will effing take a pew pew" to his face, or just all sorts of violent, aggressive things. I Google some of these things, and Google gives me domestic abuse hotline number. I guess I've gotten so used to his rage over the years, plural, that I honestly don't know what to think or do. Did I mention John and I have 4 young kids who need 2 parents? And there is no good to him. And there is good to him as well. Okay, sure, Jan. He has never hit me or physically hurt me, although he has road rage while my kids and I are in the car and has made me scared for my life. Advice, thoughts? Okay, so this is an example of a woman that is having to manage herself in order to manage him. And she said that he has some good in him as well. And the only thing she offered up was he has never hit me or physically hurt me, despite the fact that they have 4 kids and he has road rage and he throws. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is abuse. Physical abuse doesn't always mean that, no physical abuse doesn't always mean that there's no abuse. He is instilling fear in them, and he's also teaching that if there are boys in the house, that this is how you handle your household. You throw things, you get angry until you get your way. And she is teaching her daughters that this situation is teaching their daughters that you have to walk on eggshells, that this is normal. It's normal to be in this type of relationship, and that when your man or your significant other or people around you are so angry, you tiptoe around them, you make yourself small, and you try to make sure that you are not the one that is causing a blow up. So this is a terrible relationship to be in. It's a terrible situation to grow up in because it teaches you that this is your norm, that somebody being so angry, even at the outside world, and that throwing things and cussing and making violent threats is normal. This is the reason why so many women don't leave these types of situations quick, because they see that this is normal. They grew up around this, so they don't even see throwing things and hollering and cussing and fussing as being abusive. So no, I'm glad that someone sent me this. I appreciate it, but this is why we need to have these discussions so you can know that this is not normal, and yes, this is abuse. 3 Jane says, "He hasn't hit you. Honey, he doesn't have to hit you. He's got you paralyzed with fear at the notion he might hit you. What he's doing to those inanimate objects and himself is what he'd like to do with you while he's in the grips of his uncontrollable rage. Just curious, does that uncontrollable rage ever pop out at work? Or if he's pulled over by a cop, gets sassed by a DMV employee? Has someone at the supermarket accidentally overcharged him? If the answer is no, then his rage is not uncontrollable at all. He controls it just fine, except when he's weaponizing it as a means to control you." Another question I want to ask you: do you want your children growing up to think that this is a normal marriage? That one party in a marriage has unpredictable and terrifying episodes of violence, screaming, self-harm, and destruction, and everyone just deals with it? Because that's what they're learning right now. They're learning that when daddy gets angry, it's acceptable for him to shriek, destroy items around the house, hurt himself. They're learning this because you're tolerating it. You're being abused, and your children are being abused right along with you. Do not excuse his absolute maladjusted emotional regulation as stress. We all have stress, be it from work, family, money, health, general world issues. The overwhelming majority of people do not manage their stress by behaving like an absolutely out of control toddler who lay waste in their path because they're too emotionally stunted to talk about things rationally and calmly as adults do. Think about this. Would you be better off without him in his fits of rage? If that doesn't move you, how much healthier, calmer, less stressed, and happier would your children be? If you don't end this because you don't care enough about yourself, then end it because you care enough about your children instead. They didn't ask for any of this. They didn't ask to be hostages to your husband's total lack of care and concern for them. They didn't have a choice, but you do. That was a mic drop right there. The OP says, wow, a lot to process there, but thank you. And then Michi King says, just adding that I grew up with a father like this. None of my siblings are on speaking terms with him. I have done a ton of therapy and basically present as an adult child of an alcoholic, constantly walking on eggshells to avoid upsetting anyone else. It has made my first decade or so of work a living hell. Constantly anxious and so stressed over the slightest mistakes because I was always waiting for the blow up to come. I've done the work to get better and change my actions. Don't subject your kids to this. Absolutely. The kids don't deserve this. This person, Goosey Goose, says, my stepdad was this way, and my mom kept leaving or threatening to leave, then acting like nothing happened, and saying, I just didn't understand how hard marriage is, and I'll understand when I'm older. He would get home from work around 5 p.m., and my brother and I would make sure we had already eaten and squirreled away into our rooms by then, because depending on how his workday went, there could be simple screaming and ranting, or something as far as a couple of holes in the wall and a trip to the hospital for his broken hand. It's permanently damaged me in all relational aspects, not just romantic relationships. I've tolerated literal SA from friends in the past, struggling to decide whether or not to cut them off. My mom can't really leave the house without him for more than a couple of hours outside of work now. So if I want to see her, I unfortunately have to see him as well, in the house we grew up in. My brother enlisted and went halfway around the globe to get away from all of this and refused to stay with them when he takes leave. We told her that and her husband is the problem. She insists she still doesn't understand and doesn't know why my brother won't stay in their house. What happens when your kids are gone and he has you alone? What is happening to your kids when he's flying into a fit of rage when you're not there to take the brunt of it? Don't ask him, ask your kids in a safe place with a professional who will ensure that their responses won't result in further abuse. OP, you're setting an example for your kids. He's putting them in harm's way. You mentioned dangerous driving while you're in the car. If you stay in the situation, you're telling your kids through your actions that compromising their safety isn't a deal breaker. Absolutely, all of this. Um, I'm going to end it there because we see the examples from the children's side. We know the examples from the partner side because she's speaking it. But it's so important to not understand that abuse doesn't happen in a vacuum. Abuse happens and everybody around you feels it. Go ahead, join the conversation. Let me know what you think about this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and share because this is an important one. So this is a good Am I the A-hole thread because it speaks to boundaries, communication, and actually having consequences if somebody crosses your boundaries. So it's an Am I the A-hole thread from a woman, and y'all know that she is probably just looking for some validation. She says, I ruined a vacation because I said no when my partner asked me to marry him. Am I the a-hole? She says, my now ex-partner asked me to marry him even though I told him that I don't ever want to get married again. There's really not much to this story because the title explains it, but I, 42-year-old woman, have talked multiple times with my partner, a man who's 43, about this topic. I told him that I never want to get married and it's not about him, but it's just the fact that I see no point in it. I was married once and had a horrible divorce when my ex tried to take away our daughter and more. Basically, I decided I never want to be bound to anyone, and that way. It's just easier to break up than to divorce. My partner isn't really happy with this, and he asked me multiple times what would change my mind, and do I just not want to marry him? These questions started to infuriate me and would lead to arguments because I said it a million times. Last time we had an argument, it was at the beginning of July when he started that topic again. And I told him, I think we need to stop this relationship because it's obvious we don't agree in it. I made a big deal about it, and my daughter and his kids were mad at me because I wanted to break up, but he didn't. I decided to stay, and I was finally convinced we were done with this topic. And he agreed to just continue living together until we went on vacation last week to Greece. And for some reason, he asked me to marry him. It made me so mad. I seriously didn't know if I wanted to cry or scream. He asked me in front of my daughter and his kids, and it made it even worse. I said no and went back to the room. Then they stayed behind and probably talk ish about me. But I now realize that not marrying him was a good choice because even though I said no multiple times before, he thought that if he pressured me on vacation at a public place and in front of the kids, that I will feel obligated to say yes. I packed my bags and I told my daughter to do the same. She was mad at me, but she will get over it. So we came back from the trip only 2 days after we arrived. I don't want to continue this relationship because I feel disrespected and disgusted by the way he thinks. Yikes. And I personally don't think I'm an a hole, and this is more of a rant, but I guess you tell me. You're absolutely not the a hole, and you know that because you put it in here. He kept crossing your boundaries because he thought that he could. He put, like you said, he put pressure on you in front of your kids, thinking that you would say yes. But who really wants a yes in a way that has been pressured that way? I don't understand what goes through these men's minds. I don't know. But okay, she posted the edit. I never knew this would get so many comments. And for people who agree with me, thank you. Little add to this, many people mentioning that my past relationship is the reason I don't want to marry. But no, it's not. I don't even think about my first failed marriage, and it's irrelevant. I just don't want to get married again because it doesn't feel special or important anymore. Besides that, since I left from vacation last week, he sent me multiple messages accusing me of cheating, and that being the reason I don't want to get married. He called me some shameful names. So that just tells me enough about how much he really loved me or cared. Safe to say, this relationship is completely over. Basically, now he is calling me and sending me messages saying he's sorry for calling me a lady of the night and saying that I'm cheating on him. He's again saying it doesn't matter that I don't want to get married and that we shouldn't break up. I know this isn't true because he said it before too. And yeah, I guess this is the last edit. Thank you for commenting and sharing your opinions. When you enforce boundaries, you see how a person's character will really show up and show out. And in this case, he does not do well with not getting his way. And it is important that you see this early enough to where you can clock it and block it, like this woman is doing. She is walking away from this situation. She's not entangled or completely enmeshed. She's showing her daughter how, even though her daughter is upset now, she's showing her daughter how to enforce boundaries. You communicate your boundaries and then you enforce them if somebody is trampling over them. And I'm not going to do the comments on this one because I believe that this story is complete in itself. She doesn't need any advice. She didn't really need any validation, but I'm sure she got it. But I'm just doing this so that you know and understand that simply because somebody is putting pressure on you in front of all these other people, you have got to have enough wherewithal within yourself, enough self confidence within yourself to hold firm to your boundaries. But that would mean that you know your values and your boundaries and the things that you expect in life so that you can actually have some boundaries. You got to know all of that before you can properly enforce your boundaries. What do you value? What are your boundaries and what are your like hardliners? You know that first, and then you start enforcing them by saying, I have communicated this with you. You keep trampling over my boundaries, and so I am out. We're going to have to role play this because society has like chipped away all of our defenses as women and girls to where we allow them to run over us and push us into things that we don't want to do. All right, join the conversation. Let me know what you think about this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. There was a set of text screenshots that was cross posted in the BurbNBougie subreddit, and someone reported it for bullying, snark, or insults, and that made me laugh. So obviously that made me look into what this is. When people make reports on these types of things, it makes me want to look at the post even more. The woman asked the question, am I wrong for postponing third date when I'm sick? Absolutely not, but okay, let's look at the post. Okay, so this woman says, just got home. The car ride along takes so long to get through at the beginning of the school year. And I didn't sleep well last night and kind of feel like just staying home. At the same time, I don't want to disappoint you either. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Can we meet up another day this week instead? And the man says, all good. She says, thanks. I'm going to take a nap and set my alarm for an hour. And then later that day, she says, I woke up with a headache and congestion. Glad I stayed home. I feel like I'm coming down with a cold. And the man says, I'm glad you stayed too. Okay. And then the next day, he says, best of luck, Mary. Take care. Then Mary says, I'm glad I stayed home. It's because I wouldn't have felt good since I'm coming down with something. I could have passed it to you as well. I've been in bed all day and have no energy. It was nice getting to know you. Good luck to you as well. And he says, nothing to be confused about. We make time for the things or people that we want to make time for. The irony of changing my beach plans for the weather and you, only for the rain to fall, only for no rain to fall yet. And you didn't come over. I told you I'm big on reciprocity, and I had a feeling you'd flake. And instead of saying it as soon as you got up or last night when we spoke, you did your morning routine and then decided, oh, I'm not going to come now. It's the lack of effort and reciprocity. And while you stand on, oh, I'm sick, no energy, you won't see things from my point of view, and that's okay. Funny how the day of there's no energy, when in actuality you didn't want to come in the first place, because if you did, you would have. And then at 2:52 a.m. he's saying karma will find its way to you, and you'll keep being single until you're honest with yourself more than putting on a front for someone and lying and acting like you like them instead of being the woman that was different. You chose to be no better or different than anyone else, and that's sad. And then Mary says, I wasn't feeling the best Sunday and I thought it was allergies. Then after I woke up yesterday, I kept feeling worse. After I got back from taking my daughter to school, I felt like I couldn't keep my eyes opened and a little under the weather. When I woke up after the nap, I was sick. I was in bed all day yesterday, sick with no energy. I intended to spend time with you yesterday and was looking forward to it. Sorry it didn't work out. I wish you the best, Eddie. I hope you find the woman of your dreams and she's all you want her to be. None of this was said on Sunday, only Monday after you got back from the school run. Again, you won't see things from my perspective because if you did, you'd see how slimy it was. If you like me, you'd have done more. You go from wanting to kiss me in Camden to flaking on me when it's time to really spend time together. It's not right, it's dirty and unbecoming. But like I said, karma will find or keep finding you. You missed out on a good dude. And to be honest, I feel I may have missed out on a good woman. She just didn't know how to show effort, communicate properly, and preemptively. And then he says, start over. After all that, after throwing a temper tantrum, after all of that, he called her dirty, he called her slimy. The woman wasn't feeling well, but hold up. But she did her morning routine, which consisted of taking her child to school. All of that required this temper tantrum. And then, after all of these text messages and essays of how dirty she is and unbecoming and karma's going to get her, he asked to start over. And I just like, what are these people thinking? But what I really think that they're thinking is, I'm going to say all of these things, and then this woman Mary is just going to come crawling back, like begging, trying to show that she will be better. She will be different. She's going to be on her best behavior from that point on. And she didn't do any of that. She didn't come crawling back asking for forgiveness and all of that. She's like, okay, good luck, Eddie, and left it at that. And after his final text, she didn't respond. This is how Mary captioned it. I met this guy last week and went on 2 days with him. I was sick yesterday and asked if we could postpone for another day. So she met him a week ago, and this is how he's acting. HexX says, all of that over the top pseudo intellectual BS about karma finding you just to hit you with start over at the end is hilarious. Block this loser. The OP says, would you reply back to him or to tell him no or just block? And then Am Booth says, hit him with the Bugs Bunny. No. And she just says, LOL. After repeating that karma will find you, that's definitely a no. He's wishing that something happened to you. You would feel pressure every time you can't make plans. He thinks you're lying and doesn't trust you this early. Red flags are waving. Now for some of the comments on the BurbNBougie subreddit. Pop Yakala says, the start over. Please, sir, go find a therapist. Nia Mia Bia says, that part took me out. Start over my ass. Beazel Boob says he realized he effed all the way up. That and it's a litmus test to see if she's the type that will put up with verbal abuse. She needs to block and move on. And this is the part that made me chuckle. Disastrous Basis says clock and block. This is where we are using hashtag clock it and block it. She is seeing that, this man could be off his hinges a little bit, and she's wondering, but we need to get faster about it. Clock the abuse, clock the red flags, clock it and block it. Hashtag clock it and block it. So that's where we're going to leave it. Please know and understand, if they are this unhinged this early, it is not a good sign. Leave these people alone. Jump in the comments. Let me know what you think about this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.